Hey guys, in this video I am comparing what I would consider to be two portrait lenses for the Sony APS-C E-mount. This is the Zeiss 55, which you guys have seen before on this channel, versus the brand new Sigma 56mm F1.4. So let's take a look at both of these lenses up close before we get into the side-by-side comparison. Here they are next to each other. The Zeiss is the larger lens on the right, the new Sigma on the left. You can see that the new Sigma lens is about a centimeter shorter. It is, however, slightly wider. The front lens element on the Sigma is a little bit larger. It is convex versus concave on that Zeiss 55. Both lenses look great, however, nice and large, f1.8 versus f1.4. Neither one of these lenses has any sort of built-in optical stabilization. And then around the back, you'll see that the Zeiss 55 is cut out for a full-frame Sony sensor, whereas the Sigma 56 is APS-C only. So there are the two lenses side by side. Fit and finish is excellent on both. You have a rubber focus ring on the Sigma versus kind of a metal aluminum one on the Sony. What's interesting is even though the Sony is a little bit longer, both lenses weigh about the same, coming in at around 280 grams. So if you're traveling, both of these lenses are going to be equally as light. Here is the Sigma 56 mounted on my A6000. Just to give you some reference, the lens is, like I said, wide here, but it's nice and compact as far as length. So it's an easy lens to carry around with you, does not feel very front heavy or anything like that. And here is the Zeiss 55. Nice finish on this thing. It matches the body perfectly. And there is that blue logo. So very nice looking lens. So now let's go ahead and take a look at some side-by-side photos from both of these lenses. These were all done on my A6500 on a tripod. Here we go. In this comparison, I'm going to be keeping all of the Sigma 56 images on the left and all of the Zeiss 55 images on the right, just to make things easy. And we'll start out with this one here. Both of these were done just wide open automatic settings on your camera. So if you were to just grab it, stick it in aperture priority and take a shot, this is what you would get. So f1.4 versus f1.8. And what I'm curious about is sharpness in the center. So f1.8 should be sharper. However, wow, immediately you can see Sigma sharper skin tones are also a little bit nicer. You could see it here in the lips as well as in the eyes. The Zeiss image looks quite a bit softer even though it's at a slower shutter speed, same ISO and f1.8. So pretty surprising. If you look at the sharpness in the eyes, the Sigma has it beat. And moving out into the hair, same story. Let's take a look at bokeh. So you have nice and creamy here, f1.4 with the Sigma. You have some green outlines with the Zeiss. So it's still creamy. It's not a huge difference, but overall, you look at the outline here of the branches, the Sigma looks a little bit better, more smooth. So this is a win for the Sigma wide open. Let's move on to the next one. Here's another shot, this time both done at f2.8, ISO 125, 1/100. Let's punch into the center. Really nice and sharp on the Sigma. The Zeiss is not bad here at all. If you had to pick one that was sharper, I'd have to say that the Sigma is ever so slightly sharper. You can see it here with the eyes, just the small, minute details on the face. Zeiss looks great, skin tones look great on both, but the Sigma is ever so slightly sharper. And you could see a little bit more detail with the hair as well. I'd have to give the Sigma another win on this one. There's more zipper detail here. At f2.8, the Sigma is sharper than that Zeiss. Let's move to the background. Bokeh. Both look really nice here. Obviously the subject is pretty close to the backdrop here, so it's not going to be super blurry, but both lenses do a decent job with rendering the background in this case. This next one is a little bit further away, this time done at f4, ISO 200, so Let's take a look at my wife's face here. Let's see. So the Sigma 56 looks nice and sharp. Zeiss is not bad, but it is ever so slightly softer than the Sigma 56. Also, what's noticeable here is the skin tones. So it's a little bit more kind of washed out with the Zeiss, which is surprising. I would expect the Zeiss to have better colors, but the Sigma looks nice and warm. I'd say that this is the preferable shot out of the two. As far as the rest of the image, not really much of a difference here. It's not supposed to be in focus, and at f4 bokeh doesn't really matter much. But surprising to see that even at a distance, even stop down, the Sigma is doing very, very well. This next one is of a building and some bricks, this time at f8. So stop down quite a bit, and let's just take a look at center sharpness. Very close, very, very close. If you look at the grout lines here, you'll notice that they are slightly more defined with the Sigma. Look at the light here. A little bit more detail, slightly more detail in the reflection, not by a whole lot. It's not groundbreakingly different, but ever so slightly the Sigma is sharper. Let's take a look at the corners. So up here, it looks like the Sigma is sharper here with these bricks. The Zeiss looks a little bit washed out and a little bit softer. So let's take a look at this corner just for fun. Too close to call there. I'd say it's on par. Let's take a look at the bottom. Sigma's a little bit better here, a little bit softer on the Zeiss. And last corner, same thing, a little bit more detail with the Sigma. The Zeiss is slightly softer. Next shot here is of my wife and our little boy. So this one's done at f2 on both lenses, same settings, manual settings. What's interesting here, I want to take a look at the bokeh first. Some nice circles with both. However, the Zeiss, as we've seen before, has kind of these bluish greenish outlines to the bokeh. At f2, both the sizes of the bokeh balls are the same, but you don't get that outline. You see that green outline here on the Zeiss? You don't get any of that with the Sigma, which is preferred. I'm not a fan of bokeh like this that's outlined. Let's take a look at sharpness here on the subject. So there's our little boy. Nice and sharp on the Sigma. Eyes are focused correctly. You can see the detail in the lips. Sigma is not bad, but it is a step or two below in sharpness. You could see that clearly with the lips. Skin tones are also slightly better on the Sigma. Again, surprising to me. Next shot is again of our little one. He turned a little bit, so this one is done at f2.8. Let's zoom in and see what sharpness looks like. Super duper sharp on that Sigma lens at f2.8. The Zeiss is not bad, stopped down slightly, but when you compare the eyes sharpness and you compare kind of the lips and the detail on the nose and flakes on his cheeks, the Sigma is a little bit sharper, noticeably so. And then take a look at the bokeh. Same thing, you have the green outline with the Zeiss, no such outline with the Sigma. So look at that chromatic aberration, but it's green in color, very odd. Again, in this one, I'd say the skin tones are better with the Sigma, which is surprising, and sharpness is definitely in the Sigma's favor. Last image that we'll take a look at is another portrait shot of my wife. Both of these done at f2. You can see the settings at the top. Let's take a look at the eye, which is where I tried to focus. Nice and sharp detail with the Sigma. Still decently sharp with the Zeiss, but it is not as detailed. Again, surprising skin tones, also better on the Sigma. Wow, that is very surprising. So let's take a look at the background bokeh. It's just blown out on both. But again, a little bit of green outline with the Zeiss, no such thing with the Sigma. So you can see it clearly there. Green outlines, green outlines. This is nice and smooth, creamy background. I think the Sigma 56 has been pretty consistently better than the Zeiss 55 in these comparisons. There isn't a single shot that I would say is better looking on the Zeiss 55. So very interesting results and quite surprising. I was expecting this to be a lot closer. The results are close, but I'd have to give the win overall to the Sigma 56mm. So that is it for the side-by-side comparison. As you guys probably heard, it is surprising to me because I was expecting the Zeiss to have better colors, and I was expecting the sharpness to be a little bit closer than it was. Overall, the Sigma is very impressive, and if you're in the market for a good portrait lens for APS-C Sony and you're cross-shopping both of these, save your money, get the better lens, and that is the Sigma. It's hard to justify spending $1,100 on the Zeiss when you could go out and buy this Sigma for $450 or so and get, in my opinion, even better results. But I'll let you guys judge those side-by-side samples. Again, very, very impressed with this thing. The Zeiss 55 is still an excellent lens, and out of all of the Zeiss lenses that I've tested, it is one of the sharpest, if not the sharpest that I've tested. But new lenses are coming out all the time, and in this case, Sigma just beats it. Even if you're using these lenses for video, the Sigma focuses just as quickly, just as accurately, and just as quietly as the Zeiss. So it's hard to justify that extra premium with this thing. Now obviously this is a full frame lens, so if you have a full frame Sony camera, this may be one of your few options for an excellent fixed focal length portrait lens. But for the rest of us who shoot on Sony APS-C, the Sigma makes a whole lot more sense. I was recently speaking to a friend about Zeiss versus Sigma, and I mentioned to him that in every single side-by-side comparison between a Zeiss and a Sigma lens, the Sigma has always won. So that stands here. When I compared the Sigma 30mm to the Zeiss 24, the Sigma was also sharper. So many of you may think that I'm a Zeiss hater, but I'm really not. I do think that these Zeiss lenses are excellently built, and they are some of the best, sharpest lenses for Sony. It's just the Sigma is better and also less than half the price. So if you're looking at these two, get the Sigma. I'll post links down below to Amazon and B&H as usual. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all of your likes, comments, and support. Stay tuned for more, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.